Lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From walk-ons in Bruley, welcome to the Monday edition of Live at Lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I'm Charles Hannegriff along with Jimmy Ott. Jordan Kitchens back in the studio. And the Brian Kelly press conference, part of our Monday show today, coming up at 11:40. Can't imagine that game improved with repeated viewing, but we'll see what Coach Kelly has to say coming up at 11:40. Jimmy, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
And you said that like you had some reservations about it. Did your esteemed guests over the weekend give you a little noise on Sunday?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's kind of come and go. Didn't really see him a whole much. You know, I'm working there doing their thing, and so didn't see him a whole enough. But man, really. A lot of questions about Brian Kelly, man. I'm sorry. Legitimate stuff, man. I mean, what? So, Charlie, they up double digits, middle of the third quarter, and A&M makes a quarterback switch, and we acted like we'd never seen a running quarterback.
The possibility of a running quarterback, yeah.
You don't adjust during a game. And then all your next opponent does is to say, oh, let's try that. This is a team that why were they dropping back Milroe in the pocket? Maybe they self-scouted a little bit, whatever. I mean, run him first. And nobody around? I mean, come on, man. I mean, the place was ready. The place, it just really, I don't know, man.
I can tell you that the biggest disappointment, and look, we are shocked at how this game played out. If you tell me Alabama's going to win, okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But to win in the manner which they did was shocking, okay, because they had not played at this level, save 2 quarters against Georgia. And LSU, frankly, hadn't played this poorly.
Thought Alabama played that great?
Well,
all he did was run about 1940s single wings quarterback sweeps.
When you don't have to do anything else, why would you? The amount of the level of preparedness for this game for LSU was shocking. That last year this player beat you by himself, and 2 weeks ago a backup quarterback doing roughly the same things, different types of runs, but beat you basically by himself. That Milroe, who had been turning the ball over a lot, he had 12 turnovers, 6 fumbles, 6 interceptions through the first 8 games of the season. You had plenty of film on the last 4 teams who combined allowed 107 yards rushing to him. He's a fantastic runner, okay? He's a terrific athlete. But to not have something better in place, I posted one thing during the game, and it was, what have you been working on the last 2 weeks? It looks like you didn't practice. It's one of those things that usually somebody that's had a few too many calls in the postgame, I hadn't even been practicing, which, kind
of, yeah.
But it looked like
everything's fair game.
And Brian Kelly said it in his postgame. He says, hey, you're wondering what did we do the last 2 weeks? Yes, we are wondering what you did the last 2 weeks. Because like you said, this was nothing complicated. This wasn't John Bond running the triple option going, man, look at the way that guy, hides the ball, and you're not playing assignment football.
I was at those games. It was more methodical too.
Yeah,
it wasn't not just gashing big plays left and right.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was 8 yards at a time. This was bomb after bomb after bomb on the ground, and for Milroe to just go through you like that with you did not have an answer for him. You didn't adjust during the game. You came in with a game plan. I don't know what. You can only say, we're going to go look at the film again tonight, but I'm really looking forward to that too. I don't know how you come into the game that unprepared. And it didn't just and of course that was the story of the game was Milroe, but on the offensive side, you had a quarterback that looked flustered. You had some early success in the running game with a couple of plays and abandoned that. You made some really curious play calls. I pointed to a couple, not that this game swung on any one play, but, you're down 11 points in the early stage of the second quarter. You got a third down and 4. You don't get the playoff, so you got to call timeout so the play clock doesn't expire. And you come out of that and you throw about a 20-yard out pattern that's got maybe a 5% chance of being completed, and you give that right up. You get one opportunity for a big spark in this game, which was the 4th and 1 stop, and the next play you come up and a pretty obvious blitz pickup in the middle of the field from your starting center, who I'm getting tired of making excuses for, so I'll quit, just points at as he goes by to strip the ball from Nussmeier. So it's back-to-back turnovers in Alabama. You had momentum for all of about 45 seconds of actual time. There was
Charlie.
They looked bewildered. Is the word I kept coming back to? They just looked absolutely bewildered.
Charlie, you said like Milroe had been showing he did against Georgia for a half. Charlie, this was a completely different game for Milroe than the Georgia game. He threw for 6 yards an attempt Saturday. He threw for a 109. He threw for 374 against Georgia.
Well, yeah, he had to, but he also ran for about $152 in that game.
No, he ran for about 100. He ran for where is it, Charlie?
$117.
117.
117.
He ran for 185 on 12 carries.
No,
Saturday,
he threw the ball. They threw the ball down the field.
You have to make him beat you with his arm. Make him do that.
Yeah.
Make him do that. I mean, we saw that one time, against Georgia.
Right.
But how many other times have you seen it? No, he was fantastic that one time, but you got to make him. What do you fear more? This is not brain surgery. We talk about this every damn weekend.
Hey, I'll give you one. He ran for 10 yards against Vanderbilt and threw for 310. They lost. Okay.
I would hope that LSU has a few better athletes, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, you would think. And there were actually got kind of lost in the shuffle. He had 2 deep balls that they missed where he had a receiver behind the defenders. Now it was raining at that point, but he got them behind him. There was nothing, short of maybe Xavier Thomas with a couple of nice returns. There was nothing to like about this game. Nothing. They looked as unprepared as I've seen a football team for a game of this magnitude ever at LSU. I'm sorry.
Unprepared, emotionally prepared, too. Like I didn't play with a whole lot of – I mean, look, we'll get to the Saints later, but – really? So y'all decide to play now with a little intensity,
right?
I mean, you prayed professionals.
There was a play in the fourth quarter, about 10 minutes to go, and Milroe's still in the game. He runs a zone read, and LSU's got it covered for once, and they tackle him for a 5-yard loss. I think it was Weeks and maybe Swinson. I don't remember. But anyway, and Herbstreit says on the broadcast, he says, well, LSU's going to make sure that Milroe doesn't beat him here. They let the running back go by himself, but they're going to have multiple guys on Milroe. I'm like,
that was at what point in the game?
About 10 minutes to go. It was 35-6.
Herbie,
come on, Herb, we love you, baby, and and all sympathy in the world because I know what you're going through,
bro.
but partner, at that stage, the game had been over for an hour and a half. So they were just completely unprepared everywhere on the field. And I don't have a good explanation for it. I don't know if Kelly has a good explanation for it. We'll hear today.
But Kirby against Alabama, enjoy when he has 11 and a half yards an attempt, 27-33 and 374. You tip your hat.
Yeah.
You tip your hat. And you move on.
And part of that was Williams making that unbelievable 75-yard.
That's one of them. Charlie, he threw for 374.
No,
it was his night. It was his night.
No argument.
And I said that. Who else in this league can do that with the running threat like that? Nobody can put together a game. But he's had so many games where he hasn't.
Yep.
I mean, make him throw the ball. Have extra guys. Instead, they got nobody. We went 75 yards on one play. I mean, did he get touched?
72. If he did, I didn't see it.
Where's the traffic, bro? I mean,
it wasn't there. The contain wasn't there, but the tackling in the middle of the field was. I think they did nothing. They did nothing to like in
and
this
sometimes
game.
you watch a player on film, man, we try and simulate everything we could to prepare. You played against this guy last year.
Yeah.
You don't know exactly how much of a running threat he is. You played against him last year.
Right.
Sometimes, that, man, we see him on film, but it's a different deal when you're actually in person.
Put Juwan Johnson in the scout team quarterback role last week. I realize he doesn't have Milrose's size, but you're simulating it anyway. You're not tackling. So he's the one guy you got over there that is elusive. Let him run the scout team last week to get as good a look as you can get. I mean, you're not going to be able to.
They had their look last year.
Last week.
You don't have to simulate them. I mean, you
got to practice. I mean,
I understand.
Send that guy over there. You've had multiple warning flags that this is the guy that is going to beat you. And damn, I mean, from the very beginning, the very first drive of the game, he scoots 30-something yards for a touchdown. Are you not? And Brian Kelly at that point going over to Blake Baker going, what the F was that? We've been working on this for 2 weeks that guy can't run that play. If he throws it over our head, so be it. But he can't run that play. I'm talking about from the very first drive, and this went on for 4 quarters.
Yeah, till the 10-minute mark, huh?
Yeah, and then they decided, hey, let's put some people over there and stop number 4.
I asked you before who's got more pressure, DeBoer at Alabama in year 1 to make the playoff, or Kelly in year 3?
Yeah.
And
I thought it was a hard question, by the way, on Friday. I don't think it's a hard question now. I mean, maybe if the game had been reversed, I might have, felt differently. But after this game played out in the manner in which it did, it's an easy question to answer.
If LSU beats Alabama, it routes them. I mean, they're
every
bit as bad.
If Alabama kicks a 45-yard field goal on the last play of the game to beat you 27-24, we're just bummed today, and we're going back and talking about half a dozen plays that could have swung at 3 points in the other direction. That's not the conversation today.
No. And so you dig deeper, some things we've talked about for a year and a half now. This roster's not where it needs to be. This roster's not where, tell me the last time you seen Brian Kelly at a high school game. I mean, come on, man. Ain't no 4 and 5 stars running around a golf course. You can't find them there. So, I mean, it just you got to show a little bit more effort, man.
You do.
And you're coming up because your old job, your old employer doesn't miss you. They're going to the playoff.
Yeah.
Okay. We sit here and ridicule DeBoer. Bam, bench going down. He just pantsed you. But turn our nose up on Lane Kiffin. Well, he got a better roster than you. Mm-hmm. It's really not close. You beat him.
You won the game.
You won the game.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have that type of effort and you lose, okay. Right. I mean, LSU made some mistakes in that game too. They get some, but the effort. My God, go down swinging. So why don't you have your team emotionally prepared? The damn crowd was ready.
They were in the rain too.
The crowd was ready. It was a hard ticket. Mm-hmm. It was a very hard ticket. I mean, you gotta get out and hustle a little bit. And it's just, at this stage of his career, this stage of his life, 10-year deal. Don't you think this is his last hurrah?
Yes.
Okay. Well, can you finish off the job before you can start coasting? Like a veteran athlete that just got that last contract. I mean, I'm sorry.
I can't argue with it. I can't argue with
everything's fair today when you pull that.
Yeah, it is. And
you detach. What you can't get through to your team. Have a little bit more pride than that.
They're now under Kelly 4-8 against ranked teams. I mean, we don't care about rankings all that much, but these are the better teams on your schedule. We'll agree to that. You're 4-8 in 3 years, or 2 years and almost 3.
And at the end of the game, I know Richard really come on, man, we're not that team. We're not a rent-a-win material. We're not a directional school where it's really important to get this last touchdown to make this more And when I heard that and I saw that, I'm thinking they really want 10 wins here.
he was really, really upset about it, and he wasn't the only ex-player that we talked to another one yesterday.
Yeah, bro, this is
you listened to Roe yesterday.
Yeah.
You listened to Brandon Taylor on the network postgame. He wasn't the only ex-player that was aggravated about that, because there ain't a soul that I know that feels any different from 42-13 to 42-6.
No.
Now you can say, oh, you kept fighting and all that stuff. You put the second string in, okay? You put the backups in and you let them have a little playing time, because if your starters are scoring against Alabama's backups, which is what happened, then I don't want to hear about you fighting all the way to the end.
What if your starting quarterback goes down?
Yeah,
exactly. What do you do there?
Not that there's a ton left in the season that is really significant to play for as far as a playoff or anything like that. But, yeah, exactly. What are you doing?
On the brighter side of things, a little cool air coming through town. So and one of the places that is really set up for it is right here at Walk-On. So plenty of picnic-style tables on our patio with plenty of big screen TVs to watch the games. The cornhole, very popular over here at Walk-Ons and Brewley's too. But we also sit in the area where it is sort of climate control. When it's not so great outside, we close the garage style doors. But, man, when it cools off, it's a little bit lower humidity. Man, we open them up and enjoy the best of both worlds. So sitting in, dining inside, but also feeling the fresh air outside as well. So the games are always on over here at Walk-Ons in Brewley. The main road, LA1, about 5 minutes from the bridge on your way here on the right side of Brewley. Not too far down from Brewley High School. Walk-Ons in Brewley. We always need a little playing time.
Live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Brewley on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Brian Kelly press conference coming up in about an hour and 40 minutes. We'll see what his reaction is with a little bit more time to digest LSU's loss to Alabama. Second big game of the day on Saturday. The other one raised about as many eyebrows for the way it played out as the one in Baton Rouge, right? With Ole Miss. Again, if you'd have told me Ole Miss was going to win that game, okay. Home team, riding a lot of emotion, certainly capable. But Georgia, when they put their mind to it, is still Georgia. And right out of the chute, Ole Miss falls behind 7-0. Jackson Dart gets hit a couple times. He throws an interception. Georgia at point-blank range. They get a touchdown. Dart goes to the injury tent limping, comes out of the injury tent, goes to the locker room really limping. And you think, well, wow, that's about as bad a start as you can get out to. And then Austin Simmons, the backup quarterback, comes in. He leads a touchdown drive that includes a fourth down conversion, and they get right back in it. Dart comes back in the game, and from that point forward, Ole Miss bullied Georgia like I ain't seen Georgia bullied in a long time, Jimmy.
I agree, and I thought that the Dart got hit, kind of a little bit of a scramble, pressured, got hit on the first play for no gain, got sacked and rolled on his ankle in the second down, and then he just throws it straight to the safety. Just a horrible decision, horrible pass, and sets Georgia up at the 20-yard line for an easy touchdown. That was fourth down where they had to get it in. They went forward, right at the 1-yard line for fourth down. They got in to make it 7-0. But, yeah, and then he's headed to the locker room. And they bring in a kid. He was a lefty. He kind of really reminded me of Nico from Tennessee, about the same size, looks like the same sort of athleticism, and he actually throws a similar type of ball. Not a ton of touch, but just kind of on a line, kind of quick, but for a guy that didn't throw it a whole lot of touch, he was putting it on the money.
Including 4th and 1.
And also, it was coming out so much quicker. And, man, I had Ole Miss. I was hoping that, okay, then they stopped him again after 7-7. They got the ball back. It was night and day who was a lot better. And he put Dart back in. I know it's your starting quarterback and this and that. I'd have played the lefty till he, at least we had the kick. But they put Dart back in. It wasn't. But This cat lit a fire in the dart. He was a different guy. Playing hurt, he was a different guy because he was hurt. But I mean, man, it's in a good situation. I mean, competition is a good thing sometimes, man. It brings out the best in a lot of guys. And this guy, I mean, he let it be known if Dart struggles, he's going on the bench. Okay,
Right.
you wait. Okay, you're our starter. You're going back out there. But if he didn't feel any pressure, he just wasn't paying attention, and he performed better. But then as the game got better, the protection got a little bit, and I think that unit is improved over the course of the year. We've seen offensive lines improve over the course of the year. Ole Miss has. I mean, Dart was getting hit a little bit more against LSU and some others. And then LSU, I mean, Ole Miss now for the third time this year has done something that nobody else in the league has done it. And that is, well, I said before the game, they showed you they can put up 700 yards offense in Fayetteville. They showed you they can go to Columbia and dominate South Carolina. I mean, the score wasn't as bad as the game was. And then, like you said, Charlie, how long have we seen Georgia get pushed around like this? It's been a long time.
Even when Alabama beat them, they never pushed
Oh,
them
no,
around.
no. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
never, not like that.
I mean, Bryce Young had the game again, the SEC championship game, and, they got a little bit better protection. Met back up. Even when Tua came off the bench. I mean, when is the last time a Kirby Smart team got pushed around?
Yeah.
It's been a while. Mate, has he ever?
Not like that. And if I'm Georgia and I'm playing in a game like this and Carson Beck is struggling and he was struggling again in this game, I just say, you know what? I'm supposed to be able to line up and run the football. They have two offensive interior linemen. I know they missed Van Pran, who started at center there, it seemed like, for 17 years. But they've got two guards who are very highly rated NFL prospects. You would think that they could run the football. Not only could they not run the football here, they really haven't been able to run the football all year. And that's the biggest surprise when it comes to Georgia, because if you depend on Beck, he's going to throw it to the other team. He's done it enough. And as surprised as I am that LSU is dead last in the SEC in rushing, I'm equally surprised that Georgia's second to last in the SEC in rushing. This is supposed to be the big physical Georgia Bulldogs, and they can't run the football.
Held to 59 yards rushing. Now those sacks are included in the rushing.
They are,
too.
but yeah.
And there was a few of them. I mean, because Charlie, it's just real simple. I don't know where the Ole Miss defensive front is, but they're more talented than Georgia's offensive line.
And
they killed him.
They did. And
killed him. And it's not. And everybody was talking
to
with the guy, Nolan from A&M. He's not the only one. Pegues is really good. They got numbers. They got a rotation. I mean,
depth.
Yeah, they have.
You know who else has got depth? Almost nobody. I mean, that kind of depth is.
They've got a rotation.
They do.
Tennessee actually has a good defensive rotation.
It's just a lot more rare than.
Yeah, well, no.
It's harder to accumulate that kind of depth.
I got you, but I mean, Lane Kiffin's hustling.
Yep,
he's hustling.
You can
see
he
knows the school doesn't recruit itself.
You can see it on the field. You can see the
yes.
you can see the results. I don't follow Lane Kiffin around. I don't follow any of these coaches around. I don't know where they're at on a Friday night, but I can see what's on the field. I can see that roster.
And Ole Miss should never. And here's my next question. Now, Georgia, how many teams could do what Georgia did in Austin?
Oh,
at the time we said none, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe nobody else. Okay, so they're probably the most talented, huh? Well, we've seen now three things that Ole Miss has done this year that nobody else is doing. It's the most talented team in the league.
They might be, and I didn't think that at the beginning of the season. I thought they were good. I didn't
at
think
a place where their runts.
Yeah.
I mean the resources. I know they get given a little bit more, but their collective is not LSU's. It's not LSU's. Okay, you get somebody working harder at a place with no history. They don't have an atmosphere like LSU had Saturday night. They got 64,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
Okay, they can't. It's impossible. But they sure, play with their hair on fire. And they haven't always done this. They've come up to this point and they get slapped down usually.
They're capable.
And a lot of people even nationally say, well, Lane Kiffin, when are they going to get rid of Lane Kiffin? No, you don't know how this whole thing. Not every SEC program is created equally. Ole Miss is on the lower half of, I don't know if they're at the upper part of the lower half, but they're at the lower half. They are not tennis. They don't have the resources. Tennessee, that LSU, that Florida, Auburn, Alabama, A&M, Texas, Oklahoma. They don't have that. And they are outperforming you. And because the goofy guy with the baggage off the field, who everybody turns their nose up and saying, really? Oh, summer conversations. I mean, I'll take Kiffin over Kelly. Are you nuts? Okay.
They are one of the most.
He's outworking a lot of guys that getting paid a lot more money than him.
They're one of the most dangerous teams in America right now. Because if this was a regular year, if this was any other year, they ain't getting in the playoff. They're getting in the playoff now.
Oh, yeah, it's the 4-12,
yeah.
you're saying.
Right.
No, this is.
Right. They're not going to win the league because they beat themselves against Kentucky. But they are the most they're one of those like NCAA basketball teams that lost 4 or 5 games in November, so they're like a 4 seed. But from February the 1st on, can't miss a shot, and they're just dangerous as hell. And you're like, how'd this team lose 6 games? That was 2 months ago, partner. And how'd they lose to Kentucky then if they're so good?
That was 2
maturity.
months.
Right, that was 2 months ago. That ain't the same team
because
now.
they didn't take their, they think they can go through the motions and, give possessions away and still win. And they could have if Kentucky didn't pop that one pass. But, no, you don't take crap for granted. And, it's just part of being an immature, non-traditional power. They're not used to being in those situations. I mean, the poor kicker, the first little pressure that Ole Miss, kick the damn thing sideways. Man, he was drilling them Saturday.
Yeah.
They've grown a little bit. And this is where I'm wrong on them. I thought that they, with this schedule and this roster, with that quarterback, the amount of experience that Dart has. I've never been too super high on Dart, but, man, being in that system so long, that's a big advantage. And I thought they were going to make it to the playoff. I thought the schedule was conducive. They were going to get to the playoff. They're going to win one of these games, going to lose one, 10-2. They're going to get there. But I thought they were no threat. They're a threat. Oh, I don't want to play them.
If they were playing,
I don't want to play them right now.
If they were playing Texas on a neutral field tomorrow, and just straight up win. Forget about point spread.
Texas is the biggest incomplete. Because of that schedule, I just don't know. I just don't. Even with the Ivy League quarterback, golly.
I give them more
50, 60 to nothing or whatever.
I give them way more than a puncher's chance to play with anybody in the country. That includes Oregon and Ohio State, Texas. After watching that against Georgia, they can play with anybody.
And this is where Ole Miss usually happens. Ohio State, once you run it back, they get him. Okay,
and they did.
They get him. They can play with Ohio State. And the biggest advantage they have is their quarterback's far much more comfortable in the third year of starting than the Kansas State transfer. He's a gutsy kid. He's a game manager. But and then they got it going where they started giving Dart a little protection, and he started having some guys open. But I saw a different guy once that left-handed kid came in. He lit a fire under Dart. And that was play with a little bit more urgency, a little bit more fun. This guy's about to take my job.
Well,
I was surprised that Dart came back in. I wouldn't have put Dart back in. I'd have let this lefty cool off first. But Lane did it, and it worked out because now Dart, I think. Just like Kelly said, the Ole Miss game that Nussmeier was a growing game for him, that he finished strong. Mm-hmm. He had some poor passes, but he finished strong. That was a big growth game for Jackson Dart, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, one more thing on that. Who's the best player on the team altogether?
I don't know. Maybe Walter Nolan.
Okay. But it might be Trey Harris, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
What kind of game did he have Saturday?
He didn't play.
He did not play. They did all that if not their best player, one of their best players. Street clothes.
But several of the 26.
Yeah.
And the social media troll has to do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that immaturity by him is cost him some consideration by some more established programs. But give it to the Runts because I think it's the best team in the league. Got to give it to them.
Run Appreciation Day.
Run
Never thought I'd see it.
Well, that's where we are.
That's it.
I got to
call it like we see it.
3 times now. They've done things that nobody in this league is doing. So, hey, don't forget our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds of Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings. 296-0060, full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Our great team at Legacy Title, Ashley Donald, Mariana Haynes, Adrian Gallardo, Michael Platt. Buying, building, refinancing. Nobody chooses but you. Choose Chad Reynolds of Legacy Title.
Live at Walk-Ons in Bruley, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
With Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Bruley on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Remember, you can always get the show on demand, 1045ESPN.com, the new LouisianaSports.net. We'll have a new handicast for you posted tonight on YouTube. Miami fell from the ranks of the unbeaten. Despite nearly 350 yards and 3 touchdowns from Cam Ward, Georgia Tech used 2 quarterbacks, but Haynes King was very much healthy, ran for almost 100 yards, and Miami falls from the ranks of the unbeaten. Jimmy, their defense is He
was healthy enough to play. He was not 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, and that's why they rotated the 2 quarterbacks, because they just, it's certainly not unorthodox. I mean, usually you start it, but he was really big for him, and the other kid made enough plays, with throwing a couple of touchdowns in there, but King doesn't play, they probably don't win, because it was the funny thing is they busted it. Boom, Georgia Tech gets the opening kickoff and busts a long run. Miami's defense, again, putting them in spots where they've been a lot more competitive games. It's a lot of shootouts. And then Miami runs a slant on the first play, and it goes for 75 yards and a touchdown. And I'm like, here we go, another track meet. Then that thing settled down. Miami got a field goal until like late in the third quarter. That was it. So Georgia Tech got a bunch of stops and allowed their patchwork quarterback rotation. They didn't, if Miami's scoring 45 points like they do a lot of these games, like Louisville and Cal and even Virginia Tech in the high 30s, they're probably going to win. But the defense got enough stops to give Georgia Tech a chance, and it was a cool atmosphere. And what it does, though, the biggest thing, and we're all looking at the playoff. ACC, there's no way that they can get multiple teams in. I just don't see it. The Miami SMU winner will have 1. The other one will have 2. Pitt's not going to get in at 11-1. I just don't think so.
They lost again.
There you go. So they two losses now. Yeah. But so it's ACC is going to get 1 team in, and that's it.
And Miami does control their own destiny. They hold a tiebreaker on
SMU
Clemson.
Too, huh?
Well, SMU's undefeated. I'm talking about the teams with 1 loss.
Well, that 1 loss is by BYU, non-conference. Okay.
Both of the Miami and Clemson could both end up with 1 conference loss. Miami owns a tiebreaker there, so the Canes still control their own destiny. Indiana challenged for the first time. First team to stay within 2 touchdowns of them. Michigan, 20-15. Indiana now has a week off before they play Ohio State. Look ahead, whatever, I don't know. But this is the first time anybody's been within shouting distance of them the entire season.
It started out where, Michigan got a little field goal, but Indiana's up 17-3. So here we go. They're on their way again. But then it kind of bogged down. But, in the end, too, Charlie, Michigan's offense, 206 total yards.
Yeah.
206. I mean, that is on it. But they held this Indiana. After that, after halftime, I mean, Indiana did nothing. I mean, they only had 246 themselves, but, 2 touchdown drives in the second quarter. Rourke doing his thing. 17 straight points after falling behind 3-0. But then it was just a late field goal to extend the lead from 2 points to 5 points. But, yes, they were in a game, and their defense just came up big. They're a complete team. Because it looked like Michigan for the first time was it just looked like the honey the fairy tale was going to come to an end.
Yeah.
Big bad Michigan's not that good. He's not doing a ton, but they're hanging around. They're going to steal it at the end. Not the case.
Is that the best defense they've faced this year? Because my first thought was yes, but Nebraska and Washington's overall defensive numbers are actually better than Michigan's in the Big Ten. And I don't know if that's a skewed stat. My initial thought was, well, that's the best defense they've faced all year, but maybe it's not. Eyeball test. What do you think?
Well, the Nebraska thing, they just went crazy.
Yeah.
The Washington game.
They're playing with a backup quarterback.
I
in the
thought
Washington,
though, their lines, offensive and defense, gave Indiana some problems. I mean, they Washington, I thought, actually had a little bit better guys up front, but Indiana had some big plays. They had the screen pass that was intercepted for a 50-yard touchdown. Mm-hmm. They had some big plays in that game. But again, with their backup quarterback throwing by 2 touchdowns, you just you tip your hat. But on this day, yes. But over the course of the season, no. Nebraska. That's a very respected Nebraska defense that they tore up, and that was 5-1 at the time. They've really struggled since. But they're all in the same area. I understand what you're saying. My thing though is, this is the game for the playoff. They should beat Purdue. I mean, in Bloomington.
They're going to beat Purdue.
Lord.
I know it's a rivalry game, but they're going to beat Purdue.
If they get beat by a 2-9 Purdue team.
It's a bad Purdue team.
And if they lose at Ohio State, they're supposed to. 11-1 loss at Ohio State, they're in. I think they deserve it. Here's the thing. Will a 10-2 Missouri, the SEC, which we talked about their schedule, really light. I mean, do you put them in? I think Indiana's in.
I think they are too. The one caveat I would say is, don't get blown out at Ohio State. Don't go up there and lose 49-3 or something like that. And I don't think that'll happen. Then you give the committee wiggle room to say, you know what, you beat 11 teams. None of them were ranked. I don't know how many of them are going to finish with a winning record, but more than not are going to have losing records. And the one time you played a team that was worth a damn, you lost by 6 scores.
Can't even compete.
Yeah. You can't do that. Go up there and lose a game 34-20, and I think you're fine.
They are fine if they do that, but if they do that would actually make it more interesting. I mean, that would be the one blemish on their record, but to not show the ability to compete with teams, the caliber team that you're going to face.
Yes.
In the postseason, yeah. And Ohio State hasn't just trucked, just destroyed some of the middle of the road teams in the Big Ten, So
here's another team that controls their own destiny where the playoff is concerned. Colorado. They beat Texas Tech. Was one of those. It was a typical Lubbock game. It went back and forth. They were down 2 scores and they were up 2 scores, and then it got kind of close again in the fourth quarter. Lubbock's a tricky spot to play, but Colorado wins. They are in second place in the Big 12. They control their own destiny as far as the playoff, and if they as far as the Big 12 championship game, and if they win that, of course, they're in the playoff. We could talk about Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter. Hunter had another big game, another 100 yards receiving. Sanders had 3 touchdowns. But there's more to like about this Colorado team up front than there was before, and they're playing awfully good football. We'll talk about the schedule in a minute because it's kind of tricky coming down the stretch, but nothing overwhelming. But, Jimmy, they've come a long way. They've come a long way since that loss to Nebraska.
Yes, yeah, where they were kind of pushed around, and they're more of a complete team. They fell behind. It looked like it was going to be ugly, 13-0, Texas Tech, going into the second quarter, and and then they just, my goodness, man, 41-14 the rest of the way, and they're getting stops. They're getting, it's not just, this flag football game that we've seen for a big part. Certainly last year and the early parts of this year, with Deion Sanders' roster. They're more complete. And the funny thing is, it's always been, Travis Hunter or Shadur Sanders in the Heisman Trophy. One thing that is clear, the odds makers in the betting public are like, 2 of them can't have a chance. Because they're both like coach choices, along with Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel.
You talking about before this weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now Travis Hunter's even money and Shadur Sanders is 50-1.
Yeah,
wow.
Travis Hunter's had my vote for 5 weeks now.
I've said the same thing.
But I didn't know if a non-quarterback, we go through all of that.
Well, take something special, huh? Who's done what he's doing?
Nobody.
There's no comp. It's none.
There really isn't. Now they've got a tricky.
And he's helped them win. You got to win. Well, if they were 6-6 on their way to 6-6, or 5-5 right now, he would not.
They're a 10-point favorite at home against Utah this weekend, which is more than I thought because Utah's hard. Okay, we watched them against BYU on Saturday night. If the game was in Salt Lake City, I'd be really concerned about Colorado.
They left a lot on the field.
They
in the
did.
Holy War.
That's
left
fair.
a lot on the field.
And then they got
you catching Utah at a great time, at a great place.
Good point. The game after that, they got to go to Kansas. Don't look at Kansas's record.
Kansas is rolling.
It could be a lot better.
What's our favorite stat? All of their wins, they had the lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It could easily be a 7-2 team right now.
6 blown fourth
They're
quarter
playing
leads.
like it now.
They're
playing like, and they had a transition issue. They lost the offensive coordinator, and Jalen Daniels had showed it. I mean, he missed the guy that went to Penn State. And now they got it going again. They're playing good football, and that's going to be a close line too.
And then
it should be a close game.
And then they finish up with Oklahoma State, which should be easy. But Oklahoma State will be playing likely to avoid going winless.
Wow.
Winless.
Wow.
Florida State and Oklahoma State, man.
18 straight winning seasons, not non-losing seasons, winning seasons for Gundy.
Yep,
going to come to an end.
It did. They picked up loss 7 on Saturday.
Would they lose to? Was Arizona State?
No, it was somebody else. But it was loss number 7. I noted that in the on the scoreboard. So
I mean, but they also showed they went to Provo and should have beat BYU. Had them beat. We know that.
Yeah, they lost to TCU.
TCU by 25. Ooh.
They done.
MR Property Group. And look, he was trying to tell us before the season. He's trying to let us know, man, that we might have a little problem over here.
He could not have been more candid.
And what was one of the most gimmies and all? One thing, we don't know a lot, but one thing we know, Ollie Gordon and the whole offensive line is back. Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to have a good running game. They don't.
We missed on a lot of running games, man. We missed on a lot of running games.
Don't forget my friends over at MR Property Group, LSU alums Miriam Del Rio and Remy Curry doing a great job over there. And, we get it over at MR Property Group. We're here to serve you. We understand that there are no dumb questions. We are client-centric, not forcing our preferences onto you, but when you do lean on us for suggestions, we're ready and able to give you some suggestions. Low-pressure suggestions when asked. Finding the options that you are interested in. They're great negotiators for buyers or sellers. Got a great track record of top dollar for the sellers. You're thinking about selling, you may not realize just how much equity you have in your home. MR Property Group with Keller Williams Red Stick Partners in Baton Rouge, 230-4242, 230-4242.
Live at Walk-Ons in Bruley, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Bruley on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
BYU hung on to their undefeated record with a 1-point win against Utah on Saturday night. Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan was not happy about the officiating, came out and said that he was disgusted by the professionalism of the Big 12 crew. The game was absolutely stolen, and we were excited about being in the Big 12, but not tonight. We won this game. Scoreboard.
Did you hear it?
Big 12.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, I did. I did. Yeah,
it was a little bit more forceful than what you're reading.
It was right. The Big 12 sent him a $40,000 invoice and a nice hand slapping yesterday.
A little light. Yes, me.
You will not do that again, Brett Yormack, the Big 12 commissioner, said. Irresponsibly challenged the professionalism of our officials. Sent us $40,000, boss.
Got to score 1 point in the second half, though, Utes.
Yeah.
21-10 lead at half.
Hour number 2, straight ahead at Walk-Ons in Bruley, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Bruley on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We are back here at Walk-Ons in Bruley. The Brian Kelly press conference at 11:40. We'll be in the middle of this hour, and then we'll come back at about 12:30 and finish up the show. The New Orleans Saints with a victory yesterday. First game without Dennis Allen. Darren Rizzi, the special teams coach, took over. And I would say his personality is a touch different than Allen's. That's sarcasm. The Saints benefited from 3 missed field goals from Younghoe Koo, who's one of the most accurate kickers in the NFL. He had missed 4 kicks on the season before yesterday. He missed 3 yesterday. Now, one of them was blocked. Give the Saints credit for that. But he missed the other 2. And give the Saints credit for this as well. When the Falcons got the ball back after Alvin Kamara, of all people, who has played at a high level all season long, as bad as the Saints have been, since the second game, Kamara has played his guts out, and they named him a permanent captain this week. He drops what would have been the end of the game, and the Falcons get the ball back. And I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm thinking, well, this is going to be another in a line of excruciating Saints losses where you had the game, the ball is floating into the hands of your best player, and you dropped it, and you just knew. Well, I did. Falcons are going to go down the field. They're probably going to score a touchdown and win, but they'll kick a field goal. They'll win in overtime, and they did. And the Saints got a defensive stop. Chase Young got a big sack. It knocked them back, I think, 17 yards. They couldn't get out of the down and distance, and the Saints hang on for a win. Now, I watched the emotion of the press conference and the locker room after Rizzy's unfortunate bathroom story. But you didn't hear the beginning of his press conference? He said he started the day by clogging up the toilet. I didn't need to know all that.
TMI, man.
Exactly. I didn't need to know that. But there was a lot of emotion. He's a special teams coach. Those guys, they're typically, rah-rah guys. And for the players in that locker room, there was real joy. That's fine. I think that this is a sugar high, that, he changed up some things, changed the practice schedule, changed the locker room, configuration up. That's all fine. We see this a lot with interim coaches. Everybody gets a fresh start, a fresh breath of air, and they come out, and you get a sugar high for a short period of time. Yeah, you get a little jolt, you get a little pop, and in some rare cases, the interim coach can keep it going. Pierce did in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. We've seen it happen in basketball and other sports. It rarely lasts.
What about the special teams coach for the Raiders?
That's what I'm saying, Pierce.
That wasn't Pierce. No.
He wasn't the special teams coach. He was the interim coach.
Last year, Charlie.
When he was the interim coach, and then they gave him the job.
Yeah, but he didn't make it to the playoffs. That was the special teams coach that got him to play. Played Cincinnati at Joe Burrow and lost at the end.
Okay, it's two different things.
That was a few years ago.
What I was talking about with Pierce was he was an interim coach that kept the job.
No, they give him the job, which is okay.
That usually doesn't happen, where the interim coach keeps the job.
No, it does not, and it's also a mistake. How's it working out? When he has to change his hat from, the team's buddy to a position where, no, you got to manage and discipline people and hold people to,
the Steve Fisher stories of the world are very, I know I'm jumping sports, those are rare.
Let's stick to the NFL.
Yeah, okay.
Let's stick to the NFL. It's a little different.
The interim coaches that stick, I'm trying to think, very rare where it sticks for a long time.
5%,
if that.
Yeah, if that ever. I mean, and you get it took. You think the Raiders are properly run? No. This guy can't. I mean, the other thing that you talk about, Koo. Remember, he drilled the 58-yarder to beat the Saints.
That's what he usually does. I mean, he's really good.
It's the difference between winning and losing, because they were down 24-23 when he hits it with 2 seconds to go. 58. And so that's what you're thinking, and he's been so reliable. And so he was off yesterday. And the Saints, but the Saints, it kind of like, all right, you move, you lose your draft pick, but the fans are into it. And this is where me and the paying customers disagree. Really? So we're the Falcon spoiler. Okay, does that get me excited? No. Get some fans excited. You think they were a little bit more excited that they beat the Falcons? Another thing, where the hell was this intensity before yesterday? Are you guys not paid professionals? It takes you, coach, to get fired for you to play with some emotion and intensity?
That's a reasonable question. I think a lot of people – Jordan Kitchens, our producer, lives in New Orleans, and he's a huge Saints fan. He told me this the Saturday night he worked post game. He said, "Look, I understand the position that the Saints are in. I understand we got to tank the rest of the season." He goes, "I just want to beat the Falcons." After that,
No,
they should lose. And there's a lot of people that feel that way about the Falcons. I get that.
I get it, but great. We're the Falcon spoiler. Great. I mean, am I inaccurate? I mean, we're taking pride. I mean, no, man. I mean, no, let's look.
I don't even know if you're a Falcon. Yeah, I guess spoiler, but whatever.
I mean, I don't get. That was not the same team that laid down with no effort against Carolina. And how about Denver? Denver, that was a JV. They had so many injuries. I get it, but some of these other games as well. Some of these other games as well.
You lost confidence in Dennis Allen. That was pretty obvious. Okay, the team had lost the confidence in him to lead. I mean, I don't know what other word to use for it. To lead. So again, they get a little bit of a jolt. I will be surprised if this. They play Cleveland this week, so Cleveland's a mess. But what
and Pierce actually is a good comparison for the record of the team at the time. I mean, they were terrible. I mean, they weren't, and they were more competitive. Yeah. And you can have that, and that went on. I don't know exactly how many games, but it was about the same time when when they fired. Josh McDaniels last year. So, I mean, you might have – it's not going to be like this because I think there was a little extra juice by the team for the Falcons as well. I mean, that team came out playing with their hair on fire. And I'm like, okay, now that we're out of it, that's your fire. I mean, right. So have a little bit more of a professionalism, before your coach is fired.
So the interim gives you a jolt. You win the game, whatever. The draft choice – I wrote a whole column about this last week. It's not really about the one draft choice. It's more about how you go about building the team. And this is what bothers me about where they are right now, because Ian Rappaport wrote a column yesterday for NFL.com about how internally the Saints are not planning for an overhaul at all. That Mickey Loomis, quote, "The avalanche of injuries took its toll," and praised Dennis Allen for not making excuses, and that the Saints philosophically don't believe in blowing it up. I need to talk about this for just a second. There's a difference between rebuilding and blowing it up. I don't believe in blowing it up either, because blowing it up is not possible in the NFL. The salary cap rules don't allow it. The trades aren't there to make it. If the Saints went out and actively wanted to trade their top 6, 8, 10 players, they couldn't do it. Okay? It's not physically possible. So when we talk about rebuild, it's like, well, they should trade Derek Carr. Derek Carr has no trade value because of his contract. They should trade Cam Jordan. Cam Jordan has no trade value, okay? You might have been able to move a Demario Davis for a 7 for a team that needed a linebacker, but his age is prohibitive. You could have moved Alvin Kamara if you'd have wanted to, but the Saints have very limited, really attractive trade possibilities. What I mean by rebuilding is not extending contracts well past the useful life of the players. It is not continuing to circumvent the salary cap in a way that handcuffs you. It's not giving away draft choices. When I say giving away, I'm talking about some of the ill-sighted trades where they're just throwing in draft capital. Watch the Texans last night, okay? The Texans 3 years ago were a laughingstock. They had fired back-to-back coaches. Their draft capital was down. They didn't have a first, second-round pick. They were $20 million under the salary cap. They built it back by using draft. They've drafted over the last 3 years 5 players more than the Saints just in bulk, okay? And they didn't go out and sign a whole bunch of high-priced free agency, and they didn't extend the contracts of players that they knew would never get to the end of those contracts. That's what I mean by rebuilding. It doesn't have to be blow it up. But you got to have draft choices that pay off.
You got to do some things that show you value draft picks, Charlie.
Yes, you have to revamp your scouting department, because since that monster draft in 2017, their draft record is abysmal. Okay, so you need to look at your scouting department, and the head of the scouting department is Mickey Loomis. Okay, I understand that Ireland's got the title, but Mickey Loomis is a general manager. So when I talk about rebuilding, I talk about not continuing to put yourself in these bad contract situations. Not just give it. Last year they didn't have a third or fourth round draft pick. Those are starters. Those are cheap, cost control starters. If you're doing your job, the trade up in the first round with Philadelphia for Penning and Olave ends up costing them a second round pick on top of the first round picks that they swapped. That's a starter. The Texans 2 years ago had a draft where they got 6 starters, 4 of them after the first day. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to hit on all of these picks, but you got to keep them and make them. Give yourself a chance. I mean, you want to win the lottery, you got to buy a ticket. Meet me halfway here. So that's what I mean by rebuilding. I hate the term blow it up, take it down to the studs. That's not possible. Nobody does that. It's not. You can't trade away everybody. There's a salary cap floor. Their contract's extended to it. So that's what I mean by rebuilding. And if their contention is we would rather trade up, and take 3 picks and turn it into 1 player because we think that player is really good, and you make trades like the Marcus Davenport trade or the Trevor Penning trade or the Chris Olave, the Olave and Penning trade was the same one. You make trades like that, man. You're reducing your outs. You're giving those players got to hit, and they got to be great. I mean, Marcus Davenport would have had to be Bruce Smith for him to be worth what they traded for him. That's what I mean by rebuilding. A less reckless approach to player acquisitions. Okay,
didn't Derek Carr in a couple of plays yesterday, a few plays, you see exactly what you have in him. I mean, when he's given some time, man, he made some beautiful throws downfield yesterday. And then there's one time when there's the least little bit of pressure, and, I mean, he's bailing. Yeah. I mean, he is just complete. There's a reason he's been durable for so long. I mean, he is the Franco Harris run out of bounds, running back that's going to last for 16 years.
Got any advice, Mr. Miyagi? Aye, no get hit.
I mean, but when he does, man, he can throw a beautiful ball.
Yeah,
that's some of those passes.
The arm
awesome,
talent,
man.
The arm talent has always been there.
He had 10.5 yards an attempt. What would he have had? If Kamara doesn't drop that ball.
Oh, the only thing was would Kamara have fallen down because they would have been able to run out the clock, or would he have taken it in for a touchdown?
10.5 yards an attempt, 2 DDs, no interceptions. He was sharp.
Yeah,
he was sharp. Don't forget our friends at Total Maintenance, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies since 1980. My buddy Lucas Ragusa and his great staff. They've got offices and staffs in both Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Hey, I promise you we're going to have to use the heater at some point very soon. So to get that heating check right now, one-time heater check, normally $179 is just $79. Normally $179, just $79 if you mention my name, Jimmy Yacht, when you call over at Total Maintenance. 480-1000, 480-1000. So, again, one-time heater check. We're going to start using them soon. It's a safety precaution. Please get a check before you use them this winter season, just around the corner. Total Maintenance, 480-1000, 480-1000.
Live at the Walk-Ons in Bruley, live at lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Bruley on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Brian Kelly press conference about 20 minutes away. We're at Walk-Ons in Bruley. Yesterday, kind of an interception Sunday in the NFL. Daniel Jones started out throwing 2 over in Germany. Josh Allen, MVP candidate, threw 2 for Buffalo, but Joe Flacco outdid him. He threw 3 on the other side.
Yeah, Flacco wasn't good yesterday.
Sam Darnold went down to Jacksonville and threw 3 interceptions, kept the Jaguars in the game all the way. And then last night, C.J. Stroud threw 2, but Jared Goff threw 5, and the Lions still managed to win. It's only the 3rd time in the last 25 years that a quarterback has thrown 5 interceptions. His team has still managed to win. Jimmy, I want to start there.
Well, you thought he was playing the best at the position before last night.
Yeah, before last night he had a rough go. Now, one of them was a Hail Mary, but still he had a rough night. The Lions are starting to resemble, in some ways, not always, but in some ways, the 2009 Saints to me. Hear me out. Last night's game, they should have lost. Okay, you just look at the box score, you would say this team should have lost. I mean, you don't even have to get past the
you say that, but I mean, how much better were they in Houston when they can overcome 5 interceptions and win?
No, that's where I'm going. You just by the numbers, they probably should have lost. I'm going to cite 2 games that the Saints should have lost in 2009. I know you're going to remember both of them. One of them was they fell behind 24-3 in Miami. And they came back and they won a shootout. I think it was 46-30 something. But the other one was against Washington, where Robert Meacham makes an unbelievable play after Brees throws an interception. He gets a strip, and then besides that, Washington's kicker missed a 23-yard field goal that would have put it away with 2 minutes to go.
What's his name?
Schwisham, Sean Schwisham. Mm-hmm. Those were 2 games that the Saints should have lost and ended up winning them. And you start to think this team of destiny stuff. The Lions are plenty good. They don't need, any kind of gimmick or whatever. But, Jimmy, they're starting to look like that Vikings game that they won a few weeks ago that was, was a really close game.
Well, that was a 50-50 game.
Yeah. And
that was a really good game.
When you're winning your 50-50 games and you're winning almost all of them, you start to go, hey, is this the best team in football? I think from 1 to 53, they're better than Kansas City, even though Kansas City's record is better. Kansas City still got Mahomes, and they got look, they blocked a kick to. They should have lost yesterday too. 35-yard field goal. The chances are pretty high you're going to make it. Give the Chiefs credit; they blocked it. But on a neutral field right now, I think I'd take the Lions over the Chiefs, even with Mahomes. Mahomes might beat me. He beats just about everybody. But man, right now, Detroit, the Ravens, Chiefs. I get it. I don't know if I'd take anybody over Detroit right now.
No, I said this a few weeks ago. So I mean, they're overcoming all of the some problems like they had last night. Now that's not every week with golf. Golf's been really good this year, but he kind of reminds us that he's in a great situation where offensive line is the best in the NFL. The weapons he has, the running game they have. I mean, he's in a convenient position, but he's played well, minus last night. And the Chiefs are unbelievable. Every game's close. I mean, they're supposed to lose. I mean, what is the chances that Denver misses it? Gets a field goal. I mean, an extra point blocked.
Yeah, it's 30. Yeah,
it's an extra point. It's 95%.
Right.
I mean, and you saw Mahomes after, and that was not a fluke. Denver was in there most of the game, led 14-3 right out the chute, and Knicks is getting a little bit better. It's baby steps, but he's at least moving in the right direction, and they've played them tough, most of the time, but. And then the rest of the schedule is considerably easier than the Lions, too. So the Chiefs probably going to have the better record, but Detroit's a better team.
Steelers-Commanders was one of the best games of the day, and we thought for a while that it was going to be a tough spot for Washington. Pittsburgh coming off of a bye. Tomlin's record off of a bye is outstanding. The Steelers are playing really, really well, and Russell Wilson looks, 5 years younger. And, man, there for a minute, Jimmy, it looked like the Commanders were going to get the win. And we said the same thing. We were watching the game at the Queens. Like, man, it's going to be a really good win for Washington.
Yeah.
They came up a little bit short, but they're still for real. The one thing the Steelers did, Jaden Daniels was not able to run yesterday. They were able to keep him contained at least as much as you can. And that's easy to say but hard to do. Everybody comes in with the same game plan. Steelers were able to execute it, and Washington almost beat them anyway. That was a good game.
Well, Washington only had 242 total yards. That's a low number, and that's way below. And Daniels, they did a good job on them. They were winning. It was higher scoring. You would think that it's more, but I don't know, man. He made some throws to McLaurin too that were beautiful throws. Mm-hmm. He and McLaurin are really good together. But yeah, they 60 yards rushing, and that's the Steelers rushing from 140 to 60, and that's where they got more production off of there. And Wilson is, this is 3 solid starts now, good starts, and that's a tough one to lose yesterday. And you'll have to see how this sort of all these new faces, this new staff, the whole thing from top to bottom, everybody's new, and they needed it. And we'll see how they rebound from a tough loss where they played. They could have easily won the game. Just go get back and keep playing. And I think I've got faith in that they're going to be able to do fine.
One of the things Wilson always did really well
throw the deep ball,
and he threw some nice deep balls. Yesterday. He was really good.
Threw 3 TDs, man.
Yeah,
I mean, that just the passing game's breathing, and that opens up the box and allows the new conditioned Najee Harris to get some space in there. So Pittsburgh's supporting cast is much improved as Washington is. Their supporting cast is just better. It's further along than this young regime at Washington.
And they just added Mike Williams, who's been there for 10 minutes. He only caught one pass yesterday, but it was a touchdown pass, a 32-yard touchdown pass. It was a big play in the game. Some seasons that had come to an end weeks ago, I think, might have gotten hammered home to the teams themselves yesterday. The Jets lost 31-6 to the Cardinals. Cardinals look great, man. You know how you always say, the bye comes at a good time. You rarely hear the bye comes at a bad time.
Yeah.
Bye comes at a bad time for the Cardinals, man. They're playing great. I'd want to keep playing if I were them. They demolished the Jets yesterday. Any thoughts that, not that we had them, but New York
at some
media.
point they're going to respect this Arizona team. Their running game is dependable. Murray has gotten better. He was better.
Phenomenal yesterday.
They have some. Well, they was really good the week before.
He was.
Too.
He's having a great year.
So I mean, the Bears came in. They gave them a. The Bears and the Jets are both. It was the exact same matchup. Overrated Bears really hadn't beaten anybody. They go into Arizona, who's underappreciated by the odds maker. It was a slight favorite, and Arizona routs them. Jets come in there after they beat a banged-up Houston team on a short week on a Thursday night. Everything's fixed all of a sudden. No, they go in there as a favorite over an disrespected Arizona team, and it was 21-3, like, pow, immediately. I mean, just destroyed them. And so, no, they're playing really good. This young coach, man, I like him, man. They lost a tough one against, they beat the Chargers, who's having their own way of, you talk about a coach makes a difference.
They lost to Green Bay. It's the only game they've lost in the last 6.
Bad, too. And that was the only one. They had the opener against Buffalo. They led, and then they got outscored by a lot. Buffalo does that to a lot of people. So, and that's why I still think Josh Allen, man, he's got to do it all by himself, and he's doing it. I mean, he is doing it. He's playing so well. But Arizona's got a real shot to win the NFC West. A real shot. They already won a tough one. They went to San Francisco and beat them. And it was one of those late game blown leads at San Francisco. We know in the biggest games they've done it twice against the Chiefs. But when that front gets worn down a little bit, if you're within striking range, they can grab you. And they got away with one yesterday. They were on the ropes yesterday as well. But if Arizona wins that game, they got McCaffrey back as well. But if Arizona can beat them in Phoenix and Glendale, it's going to be hard for Arizona with that tiebreaker going as well to come back and win that division. Tough for San Francisco to come back and win the division. Another
team whose season has been over for weeks, but they just realized it yesterday, is the Dallas Cowboys. As far as creative excuses go, Jimmy, we've heard a lot of them over the years, but Sun in a Dome Stadium is a new one on me. That was what Jerry Jones was a little aggravated about. He's like, we know a year in advance where the damn sun is. Where's the moon? I think he might have had a Johnny Walker Blue or two in the suite before he had that little tirade. But the Eagles blew the Cowboys out. Cooper Rush was
bad,
awful.
He was bad,
awful.
And he had played bad. But how bad is Trey Lance got to be if they play Cooper Rush? There's Cooper Rush ahead of him.
Exactly, and Lance did get into the game, but about long after the issue had been decided. Be interesting. They put Dak Prescott on injured reserve, season-ending surgery, so they've got 9 games. Why wouldn't you look at Trey Lance?
Man,
I'm sorry, they've got 8 games remaining. Why wouldn't you look at Trey Lance? Cooper Rush is it was a serviceable backup. He had a nice run a couple of years ago, but you know what you got there. See if you got something in Lance. What does it matter at this point if you lose games?
I agree. I mean, the only way he's going to get better is to play.
Yeah.
And so he's so raw. But, hey, man, just this season's done. And when they're just, the people and the reports out of New Orleans, they didn't think it was done down there. They were still wanting to play. And Dallas, I mean, it's a poorly run organization. I mean, they've been this way for a long time because of this. But, yes, please, let's see what you have. I mean, this season's done. And Jones is the guy. I mean, everything stops with him, and it's hard for him to admit that. Very hard. And he's not a guy that, we're going to play for next year. When's he done that? But if he doesn't see that now, it's going to hurt him in the future as well because Lance – Let me see him fail after what I saw at Cooper Rush. My goodness. And look, they played pretty good. And I'm like, man, they played as good as they could play, and they're down 14-6 at half. They played with some emotion. They played, but they're still down at half 14-6. And you knew the worst was coming, and it did.
One more, and then we'll go to break. Caleb Williams was sacked 9 times yesterday. That's 38 for the year. He's pacing towards Carr's record of sacks on a rookie quarterback. In the Bears' minor defense, both starting tackles were out yesterday. One of the two guards, one of the backup guards was out as well, so it was a makeshift offensive line, but they weren't good when the starters were in. That young man is getting pulverized up there in Chicago.
Your roster build, your roster makeup was flawed. I mean, it's built with no concern with the line of scrimmage. It's all about it's a flag football team, and I mean you don't think they could have used a lineman instead of Roma Dunze? I mean they gave the career contract to my man Moore came over from Carolina.
He's had a bad year.
Well, I mean, and part of it is that he's holding the ball too long. He's not processing quick enough. And he's given up on some things and kind of scrambling into pressure as well instead of being staying committed to the pocket. Look, if you get hit that many times, you get pressured that many times, you're going to probably move as well. So it's basically halted his ability to develop. And until they get some sort of protection, he's not going to get better. I still think he's going to have a long career in the NFL, but he has not gotten one bit better from start 1 to start 10.
There's a reason that there are transitional quarterbacks, and you go out and you get a veteran that kind of knows the ropes, is going to go out there and take his lumps, while you can develop an offensive line, because if you draft a quarterback up at the top, it takes you a little while to put some roster development into it. You send the sacrificial lamb out there. I'm sorry. You send the Andy Daltons and Jacoby Brissett's of the world out there to get beat up. I mean, you pay them really well to go get beat up, so your prize rookie doesn't.
Well, did Joe Burrow have a lot of protection his rookie year?
No, he didn't.
So he became the fastest to get it out of his hand.
Yeah.
And Williams just can't do that.
Not right now.
He holds on to it too much, and Burrow there's been a patchwork offensive line since, but I mean he was with his offensive line was really bad his rookie year too, and it's not gotten much better. But it's gotten better, but not enough to make a big difference. Total Dominant Performance High School Fall Baseball Program. We're at it right now. We got 3 4-week sessions. We're in our second one right now that has started October 28th through November 22nd. Our last one will be November 25th to December 20th. Perfect time to kind of get your tune, get you your tournament ball player, get them primed up, and that way to get a jump on everybody else before the tournament season starts, and experience a more success and more, just enjoy it more when you're able to perform at a higher level. It offers a blend of skill acquisition training, throwing, hitting, defense, paired with strength and agility training. Players are placed in small groups to optimize quality of instruction and maximize repetition. So we have programs in place for both position players and pitchers only. Contact Nick Schneider, nick@tdpbaseball.com. That's nick@tdpbaseball.com for more information on our 2024 high school fall baseball program.
Live at the Walk-Ons in Bruley, live at lunch. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Bruley on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, we're going to sing you to the Brian Kelly press conference. I did have to say this in the postgame the other night that, there's only so much he can say. I don't know how much this is going to make you feel better. Probably not at all. He's shown emotion in these post games and beat on the table and got criticized for that. He said we got to coach it better and got criticized for that. And then there's you can go in and blame the players and you get criticized for that. So you sort of boxed in. So if you're hoping for a healing salve here, there's only so much that you can do. But and interested to hear what he has to say with a little bit more time to digest that loss on Saturday night, which was about as bad as we've seen. So we'll take you to the Brian Kelly press conference. We'll be back here at Walk-Ons in Bruley to finish the show at 12:30. So we'll sing you to LSU right now. And the Brian Kelly press conference is live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Bruley, Charles Handegriff, Jimmy Ott, Max Cotro, Jordan Kinch is back in the studio. Alabama was more consistent. That they're a really good team, and their self-scouting, they knew what they wanted to be. I'm going to let you feast on that one here in a second. But Brian Kelly said we were inconsistent, had will and desire, but we were inconsistent. Sometimes on third downs we were not lined up. We were not in the right alignment. Coaches have to help consistency, and the players have to be more consistent. Consistent was the word of the day. I think we had that one more than anything else. The sequencing in the run game to help the pass game, but becomes more difficult when you get behind. Have to be more consistent. Multiple mistakes that they can still correct. They know what is wrong. That's good to hear. That they had won 14 consecutive night games. Am I happy? No. Overall, we won 10 out of 13. We will become a championship program. We know what we need to do. The quarterback runs, he talked a little bit about them specifically, that they did not leverage in a proper way and was not – he wasn't wild about the calls that they were in. It seemed like it was probably a pretty animated discussion with Blake Baker about a couple of those things, especially when it came to backside of the backfield, that they didn't recognize whether they were wheel routes or kickouts soon enough. Talked about Caden Durham's usage, that they have complete confidence in him. There were two different questions about why he was not in the game at specific times that I don't want to say Kelly sidestepped him, but more or less said, no, we're fine with him. It's just where we are in the game. Frank runs the running backs in and out. So, Jimmy, consistency is what they are looking for.
I think it's a little bit more than Coach realizes, the people.
Or than he's willing to share in a press conference, let's hope.
Oh, he downplayed it. He talked about that damn 10-win crap again, too, man. You don't make the playoff. It's a loss.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, hey, yeah, Woody, I'm interested in the job. Let's talk. All right, Coach, they're going to a 12-team playoff. We don't make it 10. No, you're not hiring me to win 10 games. Go play Wisconsin or a banged-up Purdue team in Florida in some meaningless bowl. That's less and less meaningful now that their 12-team playoff is here. Come on, everything is about it. You are not. Man, this is only the second program in the history of college football that's had three straight coaches win natties.
Yeah.
No.
And it's hard as it is to
Go
believe
tell that crap somewhere else, man.
The bowl games are less meaningful than they were before, and they were pretty meaningless before last year.
You're right, Charlie. What can he say that's going to make anything better? Nothing. Yeah. But I was a little surprised he was taking this consolation crap. He's not a consolation job, and he knows he's not making consolation money.
No, but if he does get up there and he says, hey, we didn't make the playoffs.
No, this ain't good enough.
Right, yeah.
No, what's wrong with that? We're here to be one of the top 12 teams in the country.
It's not good enough.
We want here to be the top one of the four.
We need to be better.
Four best teams.
He used the word consistent. Yeah, but yes, we need to be better. I'm fine with that.
A lot of things left to play for.
Yeah. Well, There's not. But I get why. He's still got to coach the team for 3 more weeks.
I get it. You'd rather go 3-0 than 0-3.
Yeah.
Okay,
I get he doesn't want to talk about the offseason, and he shouldn't right now.
But look at the teams you got left.
You got to go play 3 more games.
Look at the teams you got left.
Right.
This is, there's no more juice. There's no more chances.
Right.
Again, this was your biggest stage.
Yes.
And you laid a complete egg.
Yes, you did.
The coaches, the players, the whole bit. Fans showed. Fans are ready. Fans are dying to give you something. Dying. Even to the point where even Herb Street and Fowler said, man, these games have been CBS, man. This is a different level. This atmosphere, huh?
Yeah, and
I'm paraphrasing.
Well, yeah, and they got it 2 years ago because they had that.
That was when they were on the plane and they were talking about how great it was. But I mean, it's just
this was your opportunity and you blew it. I understand you got to finish out the season. You still got to coach you guys and all that.
Charlie, this was in his opening. This was not asked to him yet. Like, still got a lot to play for. I know just a little bit like, bro. I mean, it's okay to say, man, we're not going to have this stage. We're going to have to do some things, not just the end this season, because it will get harder to build for your next stage if you don't finish out these games. But no, this stage is gone, and we got to do something to. And what did you learn from not showing up on this stage? I mean, making some calls, making some bad calls, consistency. I don't know, man. I sat there with Curly Hallman's press conference after the 58-3 game.
That was bad. I remember.
And it was a little bit out of touch.
Yeah.
And there were some things that Brian Kelly said that were out of touch just now.
He does have he's got to keep the message to the team. They got to keep hammering away. I said this on Saturday night. The only thing left to play for is to see who quits on you. Okay? So finish it out. I get why he's got to say that. Big picture don't work on the practice field. They got 3 weeks left. See who doesn't quit on you. That's what I want to see. But, yeah, as far as addressing the media, no, I'm not buying that, 10 wins will be a consolation prize or the whatever bowl. No, that's
basically what he said.
Yeah. And,
he said that's a big deal. He said it, his words, that 10 wins, that's a big deal.
And without the playoffs, it's not.
No.
It's not. It's not. We'll see if he can keep them together and what they look like the next 3 weeks as far as what he's got moving forward. But he understands it ain't good enough, even if he doesn't articulate it, or he certainly should. The South scouting thing was interesting to me because he said, Alabama knows what they want to be. Now, we can talk about Alabama for just a second here, but they obviously went back and looked at it in the off week and said, wait a minute, hang on. We're going to live or die with 4 running the football. If we want to be really good, we want to beat somebody that's really good, 4's going to have to run the football. To the point where some Alabama fans were wondering if Milroe had an injury that they didn't know. And maybe he did. Why they were not running. Maybe he's finally healthy. They did. Maybe he got healed up a little bit. He's running usually, enough to where he can have a little wear and tear. Yeah. Kind of look like we talked about, they said, I know it's a different, but Vandy showed a little wear and tear this past week. Sure. They were not competitive against South Carolina. And they've been competitive against tougher teams. It's week 10. Yeah, so you're going to be a lot more beat up than you were in September. But they also probably said, wait, we self-scout, but they had to watch the backup for A&M and say, they can't stop him running the ball. They're going to have to show us they're going to stop our guy running the ball because our guy's better. Which they never did. And when he talks about leverage and on those calls, okay, so sometimes this is what I took out of it. Sometimes we were in the wrong calls, and sometimes we were in the right calls, and the players didn't make the plays. He tried to put it nicer than that, but when he talked about leverage and alignment, that's what I heard. How can all your guys have an idea where this guy is on his legs? I mean, Nick Saban, here's the difference. Nick Saban had problem with mobile quarterbacks, right? Because what did the mobile quarterbacks do? They broke off of plays, and they did
improvisational things and school-like things that weren't form. These are design plays. They're going exactly where they're designed to go. And for you not to have more guys running to the ball there is inexcusable. That's option A for Alabama's offense, and everybody knows it. Make him throw for 375 like he did against Georgia. You tip your hat and you move on. Not option A. All 11 on that defense. Every damn defensive assistant, Baker, Kelly, the whole bang. You got to have hats around that guy where he's supposed to run the ball. As soon as he snaps it, where's he going to run? When it backs over here, you're going to be right option this way. I mean, that's a breakdown, man. To be flabbergasted by that. No, there's nothing improvisational about it. It's unbelievable. And it was the one thing I'll give the A&M kid a little credit for. He was pretty sneaky with his reads. There were legitimate reads where he was either giving it or pulling it.
The ball was in the belly a long time.
Yeah. He was really riding that. You know, this was not even any deception. He's better at it. Milroe's better at it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like back when, what was the kid, Marshall for Auburn, when they lost to Florida State in the national championship. They won the SEC.
Nick Marshall, yeah.
Man, how he really, you knew it was coming, but he was so good on reading and executing that. That A&M kid at least did that. But you got to, you made him make it. You got to make him beat with your leg. With his arm, man. It just, I'm a little bit more devastated by that outcome than, inconsistent. No, man. Hell with consistency. 10 wins, go beat Wisconsin, Purdue in January. Who the hell cares? You out the playoff, dude. That's not what you paid for.
I said the other night, my confidence is shook with him. It really
Rabelais
is.
asked
After the last 2 weeks.
Rabelais
it's
asked a
shook.
similar question that I did in 2001 to Nick Saban. It was basically the same question. You know, when they got smashed by Florida at home.
Yeah.
You lost a competitive game up in Tennessee. All right? Mm-hmm. But you got smashed by Florida. Brock Berlin came off the bench and was throwing touchdowns on you. They ran it up on him. And, we didn't – are we good enough? Can you win here?
This group, this particular
and we've
group
seen that you can win here now. It's a different deal. We've seen Saban came back. Yep, he won his national championship here. Next guy did. And Saban, but man, things are in place, bro. That's why you took the job.
You have every tool that you need to win.
He took the job not just to get to the playoff, but to compete in the playoff. His move. If he was able to compete when he got to the playoff at Notre Dame, he wouldn't have taken a job. So no, not only is the 10-win thing not a consolation, but you're not even getting in. You're not even getting in before we could see if you can compete in it right now. And so it's just, there's nothing he could say that's going to please me. I get it, okay, but I'm a little surprised he wasn't a little bit more amazed. No, this ain't good enough.
The big stage.
Us not making
the big stage is where he has failed the most. In not all, okay. He's won some big games here, but there've been more 4-8 against ranked teams. That number's indisputable. And you look at the big stages this year, the really big stages. All the eyes were on the opener. You lost to a bad team. We didn't realize they were bad at the time, but that's a bad team.
Were they that bad at that time? I don't think so. I think they were a little better. I think Miller Moss played at a level where they're not going to bench him.
Okay, let's say
you didn't think Miller Moss played a good game?
I did.
I did too.
I did, and I didn't think he was going to get benched, but he did. I also think when I left the stadium that night, as I do 2 and a half months later, that LSU should have won that game, that they had better personnel and should have won that game. They had a big stage against Ole Miss, and they won. They didn't play well in the first half, but they won. You give them credit.
Man, that's a bigger and bigger deal.
That's a big stage at A&M because first place in the SEC going to November is on the line. You got the lead, and you blow it. Big stage against Alabama because playoffs are on the line, and you blow it. You've had more big game failures than you've had successes.
But, Charlie, I don't understand how this team's not emotionally prepared either. This is on the players, okay? The coaches don't need to fire you up for this stage. They don't. There's no secret.
You think they played hard the other night?
No.
You don't think they played
No.
hard?
No.
Not.
You go compare the difference of intensity level in the Ole Miss game defensively, okay? In the Ole Miss game, in the Alabama game,
No, they played.
Ole Miss is better.
They played some really, really bad plays. It was bad IQ. I'll give you one example, okay? On the 39-yard run, the first Milroe touchdown run, Gilbert is so far out of position from where he's supposed to be. He's running fast, but he's running in a completely wrong position, okay? Our safety play has been that way for a decent amount of the season. I don't think they came out flat. They just came out, I keep going back to the word bewildered, okay? Yeah, there's a certain amount of pride and everything that you got to take into this thing. I don't know that they played flat, but they certainly did. You thought they played flat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought they played bad. Maybe we're saying the same thing, just a different way.
No. There's a difference. There's a difference. I think both.
Yeah.
I think both.
Okay. Caden Durham.
They're doing it, okay? So whether you want to admit it or not, they are taking him out when you get into the red zone. He's a track guy first. I love his leg drive. He did run it near the goal line against South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is happening. So, come on, man. Well, shoot. Caden Durham in or out of the game to get a red zone, man. That ain't. That's way down the list, bro.
The red zone is down the list. Overall, though, if you're going to establish any kind of run game, he busts one early, and then you get away from it. I understand why you can't run the football when you're down 35-6.
Do they? Is there a chance that they think that they have better guys in the power running game where you can have more congestion than Durham? Yeah, he's a track guy. I do like his legs. Does he deserve a chance? He's your best back. But they're doing it. They probably think that these guys are a little bit better power runners.
Well, they're wrong because Williams and Jackson do not provide the type of explosiveness. I get that he's not as big and strong, but
Williams has had a history of getting some tough yards. I think it's when the yards are tougher.
And that's I see what you're saying.
Well,
in this particular game,
it's happening. So
Williams had 6 carries the other night and didn't go anywhere. So I'm not sure that
he sure didn't.
No. So maybe try to get. I don't know. You're right.
You've seen Williams in the red zone get some tough yards before.
Yeah, he's an honest back.
Yes,
I get it.
But Durham's your better back.
And these are things. You're right. They are way down the list of priorities.
And he also said that Durham was, banged up for the course of the season.
He's been banged up for the course of the season.
When you're going to run him into a little bit more of a brick wall
off of the bye.
You want that?
Yeah, off of the bye. His first carry, he busted for 45 yards.
Hey, at about 78th on the priority scale, with crap that needs to be addressed, man.
We have 1,000 things that have to happen in order. We are on number 6, and
big picture,
you're on number 743.
You got to hustle more. You need to work more in the off season in roster. He sure made a mention of how his recruiting ranking this year, huh? So maybe he did adjust his staff. That's built more for recruiting. How many of those staff adjustments in the offseason were not in a favorable recruiting aspect?
All of them.
He doesn't want to do it. He don't want to do it. But he underestimated. He admitted that he doesn't have to. He admitted by actions that he undervalued the recruiting aspect of his staff.
Yes.
He hired some guys that he passed over that wanted the job in the first place because he's a good recruiter. Okay, others too. Now that you got it, is it going to improve? I think so. You think LSU's roster is not going to be better next year or the year after than it is right now?
It better be.
Well, yes, it better be.
It better be.
It's not good enough. And we said this before, and we said, LSU got talent. Well, no,
so here's
the last 2 years, LSU's talent is not where it should be. Not where it should be.
And so most of the recruiting hay is in the barn, not all of it, but most of it. Now you got to go bust it in the portal.
Yes.
The first year when you knew you didn't have.
When I say recruiting, it's too hard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But this is on him, okay, as soon as the season's over. This is on him. The first year when they had limited personnel, they busted their ass in the portal. I mean, they beat every. They looked under every rock. They beat every bush around the country. They brought in about 12 guys, and about 8 of them could really play. Now, I'm not expecting them to go out and find another Jaden Daniels, but the last 2 have not been anywhere near as productive. And next year depends a lot on you better be able to bring in 2 or 3 guys who can play, and 1 or 2 of them better be on that offensive line, or else you're gonna be in a bind. We'll take our final timeout here at Walk-Ons in Bruley, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Walk-Ons in Bruley on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
What do you think about this? This is interesting to me for a second, just because I can relate with where the program is. Nebraska promoted. I didn't even know this guy had gotten there. They brought on Nebraska brought on Dana Holgerson as an analyst about a week ago. I missed that story. Now he's going to be the OC. They fired the OC today, Satterfield. He's going to call the plays for the last 3 games of the season.
Who did Nebraska play this weekend?
USC. They're at USC.
Oh no, this past weekend they didn't
play.
they
lost to UCLA. 2 weeks ago, they lost to UCLA.
Right.
They were off.
Right.
Yeah, they need 1 win to be bowl eligible, and as insignificant as that is here right now, they haven't been bowl eligible.
That's a big deal for them.
8 years.
Yes. No.
You remember when it was 6 years here?
Yes.
It was weird. 8 years that Nebraska hasn't been to a bowl game.
I understand.
You know, when I see Dana Holgerson, I just don't see the big red N on his hat. I mean, it's just. Now I know the freshman Raiola, the freshman quarterback, is a real talent, but I don't know. Maybe they get. I like Matt Rule.
Got a lot of improvement to make.
Yeah.
I mean, he's far from a finished product. He's got the physical, but he's being rushed into a situation he's not ready for.
Right, and I like Rule. I think Rule will do well there.
If he can't do it, Charlie, I mean, I don't know who can. I mean, maybe a Signetti, but I mean, Matt Rule's got a tremendous track record. Oh, and what was his big failure? What was his one failure? Working for that guy in Charlotte? Okay. I'll give him a pass. Do you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You don't count anything that happened in 2020. I don't count anything that happened working for the guy in Charlotte. Although he did a nice thing with the Hurricane concert, but as far as the football stuff, no, definitely not. Monday Night Football, you like anybody?
Before we do that, I want to remind everybody that Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, right across from Mike Anderson, just off of Nicholson. We'll be there later this week on a Thursday, broadcasting live. But, hey, don't forget their happy hour. It's every day, 2:30 till 6:30. Los Reyes Mexican Grill, great lunch specials. You can do the taco salad, spinach salad. They got the bowls there that we like so much as well. Go see the great staff over at Los Reyes. My buddy Kyle Rogers, Mr. Scott, Miss Blair behind the bar doing a great job at Los Reyes Mexican Grill. Who we got tonight? The
Dolphins and Rams.
Whew.
Dolphins have been close the last few weeks, but closer. Okay.
Is that a roster you're trying to get close? I see.
It's like winning 10 games in the NFL, Jimmy. Getting closer.
10 wins in the NFL.
I'm joking.
10 wins in the NFL and 10 wins at LSU are two different things.
I know.
That'll get you to postseason. One won't.
Wasn't a great joke. They lost to the Bills by 3. The Cardinals, who are playing well, by 1, and the Colts by 6 the last 3 weeks.
I'll take the better coach here. McVay's much stronger.
Yeah.
Then this guy down in Miami, they ran Fangio off because he was too hard on him. They lack a lot of toughness. They lose a lot of close games.
Rams 2.5-point favorite tonight. Thanks to the folks here at Walk-Ons in Bruley. Tomorrow we'll be at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street. For Jimmy and Max and Jordan, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon. And stay tuned for Hunt Palmer, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.